Let's go to the Rude guest hotline right now. Welcome onto the program. Our buddy, Jay Gruden. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. Jay, the longtime play caller in the National Football League, former head coach here in D.C. What's up, Jay? How you been?
I've been great. How you guys been doing?
Good, buddy.
We are kicking it. So I wanted to get you on to talk Deebo Samuel. First of all, the haul that San Francisco gets back, if you want to call it that, what was given up? Washington takes on a little under $18 million in cap space next year or this coming season for Deebo, and they give up a fifth-round pick. Thoughts on that as a return or an amount to give up for him?
I love the trade. I think it's good for both teams, really. I think it's better for Washington. It just kind of it gives Jayden another weapon, a guy that can catch the ball in short areas and make big plays after the catch, a guy that's physical, a guy that can block. I know people don't want to hear, hey, we got a receiver that can block. No, it's kind of important, especially to offense that he runs. He do the jet sweeps, the reverses, get the ball in his hands. He makes things happen. You know, he's not a guy that is going to catch 85, 90 balls for 1,800 yards or anything like that, but he's going to be a great role player. He's going to have significant production, and it's going to really help out Jayden make the game easier.
Yeah, to your point, Jay, a lot of folks we've heard from were grumbling a little bit about maybe what he can't do, maybe not taking the top off the defense or running certain routes. To me, I'm focused on what he can do. Go into that. How would you use him?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, there's certain things that, you know, certain guys don't do. I mean, this is not a top taker offer. That's okay. We have Terry McLaurin who runs 4.3. He can do that. And, maybe get another guy. This is a guy that can line up in the slot. He can line up anywhere. He can catch the perimeter screens. He can block for the perimeter screens. He can do the jet sweeps. He can do the rounds. He can line up at running back, play running back. Most importantly, he catches the under routes when he's in zone coverage. If he finds holes in zones, he splits them. He makes great runs after contact. He's physical. He's dependable. I like his game a lot. I know he's been hurt. He slowed down a little bit, but I just think for the role that I think Cliff's going to use him in, I think he's a perfect fit.
Would you, if you were Washington, be worried at all about the weight issue, if we want to call it that in air quotes? You know, where he gained a little bit of weight last season, was out of shape?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot to that. I think Deebo knows that he's got a year left on his contract to make something happen for himself financially in a big time way. He can't be 20 pounds overweight. He won't get anything. You know, I think it's a big year for him. I think he's going to be motivated to come in and make a lot of things happen. I'm not worried about his weight. I'm more worried about his injuries. I think the medical team and the training staff have to do a really good job to make sure he's taken care of. I think Dan Quinn will do a good job throughout the year to make sure he gives him plenty of time off to make sure he's healthy, because his style of football is a physical brand now. He's got to have some time off, make sure his body recovers so he can play at full strength on Sundays.
Would you try to think about doing some kind of program like they kind of did with Eckler, maybe limit his touches or limit his reps? I mean, it didn't work perfectly with Eckler, but the idea made sense to me because you want him for the long haul. Would you think about doing something like that, or it's, we got Deebo, I'm going to use Deebo?
Yeah, during the week I think you will, but I think on game day, unleash him. I think still the way Jayden plays and the way Cliff calls plays, it's not like he's going to be the feature player on every play. He's going to be maybe the second or third option. He'll be the first option on the jet sweeps or the reverses or the rounds, whatever you call them. But for the most part, I expect him to get 5, 6, 7 touches a game, and those will be possibilities for big plays. And then it might only be 4 or 5 yards, but they'll be positive plays. But I think moving forward, you use Deebo like you use Deebo, not like Deebo was used in 2021, where he's a running back half the time and had all that production. I don't think he's going to be quite that big a role, but I think there is going to be a pretty good role for him.
I want to go deeper into the fit in the passing game. I'm just so excited about him in their screen game. And some of the stuff around the line of scrimmage you were talking about, I think everybody in the league runs a ton of like these mesh concepts now where they get these rubs. And like, to me, that's Deebo's wheelhouse, where he's got a full head of steam. He catches the ball and he gets up the field. And Washington ran a ton of that, a yard or two downfield this past season. I don't know how unique that is, that he's a fit in that for them. But like, how would you use him, and what do you make of just the schematics of it?
Well, you're right. I think pro football's come to that. A lot of that stuff, a lot of the, the shallow crosses, the mesh plays, like he talked about, a lot of the bubble screens, the release screens, the tunnel screens, the jet sweeps, all that stuff is a major role in pro football now. And you got to have people that can do it. I know that Washington last year had OZ, and a little bit of Crowder did it, a little bit of Austin Eckler did it, but this guy's a different guy. He can handle all that stuff, and that's a huge package to have. And then you pull that stuff out, and then you got play actions off of it, and then not to mention in the running game, he's going to help because he can dig out safeties, he can block corners, and go out and crack linebackers or crack defensive ends because he's a big physical guy. He's a jack of all trades. He can do it all. He may not be able to run a 4.3 40 anymore, but he can do a lot of things that a receiver needs to do to be productive in this offense.
Jay Gruden with us here on G&D. So what would be the compliment to him now that he's a compliment to Terry? Like, what would sort of round out this receiving core perfectly for you?
Well, if you're going to run a 3-receiver set, then Terry's a great compliment, and you got Deebo, and I like to see another guy maybe with some wheels that can really run. I don't know what they're going to do with De'Ami Brown. I don't know if they have it in the house. I'm not sure Luke McCaffrey's that guy, but I think they get a guy in a draft, a guy that can really, really run. I'd like to see that. Terry can run, obviously, but to get one more guy that can run, add another physical presence, maybe another tight end. The big thing, they got to get the tight end situation right, whether it's Zach Ertz or somebody to draft or what have you. I think that's an important position they need to fill right now. And maybe one more back that can really strike fear in some people. But as far as the receiving core concerned right now, I think the three they have on contract, McCaffrey, Deebo, and Terry, are a pretty good start right now.
So we'll get to the tight end and the running back in a second with Jay Gruden, who's joining us on Grant and Danny. But I want to ask you about Devonte Adams. Got cut by the Jets today. Danny and I were just discussing him. For the record, I'm not interested. Danny has legitimate interest in bringing him in here. He's 32 years old. I just think, you got a lot of mouths to feed at that point. He's a guy that demands the football. Would you think he'd be a fit in any way?
Yeah, I probably lean towards no on that one. I think there's major needs where money has to go, especially on the defense, tight end, like we mentioned before. I think they got to really address the secondary, make sure what they're doing with Jeremy Chin and obviously Frankie, the defensive end, the pass rusher Fowler, obviously the middle linebacker Wagner. They have some issues there. They got to make sure they take care of before they add a 32-year-old receiver. I think Deebo's a great player. He's a great Swiss Army knife. He can do it all. I think that's a start at the receiver position. They'll obviously address it, maybe free agents. The problem with free agents, there's not really a lot of great ones left. You got, Godwin's hurt, Diggs is hurt. Hopkins is a little bit older. Deontay Johnson stinks. Darius Slayton, nobody's excited about that. Keenan Allen's a little bit older. Joshua Palmer's a little bit older. That's why I think getting Deebo is a huge deal for them, because the cabinet is pretty empty when it comes to receiver free agents. I think they're going to have to get one in the draft and hopefully re-sign De'Ami. I think De'Ami did some good things other than the fumble late in the year. I think he played well at the end of the year. So hopefully they get him back.
And so your point, Jay, about the free agent market is kind of my point as to why I'm interested in Adams. I wouldn't go over the top. I wouldn't win some crazy bidding war, and I'd let someone else do that. But my point is that it's going to be hard to add talent, and maybe if you don't buy in the receiver class this year, as a lot of folks don't. I'm no expert on it, obviously, but just the way folks are writing, there may be one or two guys that goes in the first round. Are you going to really be able to, upgrade the talent that way? That's why I'm saying I'd at least kick the tires. Give me your reaction to that.
Yeah, no. If they signed Devonte, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be surprised a little bit, but Devonte can still play. He had some good games down the stretch for the Jets last year. He could still run some good routes and do some things effectively. I just think, I don't know. I just don't see that happening. That's all. Realistically, I don't see them going out and getting Devonte.
There's also a financial element too, right?
Financial element. Yeah. I just don't see that happening. If they got him, great, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's talk tight end then. Level of interest in bringing Ertz back, or would you try to find somebody a little more dynamic for that tight end one role? I know you're such a proponent of being able to block as well, and Ertz does a pretty good job in that regard.
Yeah, I'd take him. I'd sign him again. It's better to have a bird in hand, right? I think you got to have him, and then hopefully, you get another year with Ben Snott. He's progressed a little bit, and then you got to figure out what you're going to do with Bates. If you re-sign him. I'm really big on the tight end position. I don't like going into the draft saying, okay, let's get a tight end in the 4th or 6th round. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to replace Zach Ertz with a 4th round tight end from Central Michigan. It's not going to happen. You got to have a veteran tight end there that knows how to block and run the routes, be Jayden Daniels' security blanket. I know he won't separate like he used to, but he was pretty productive last year. I would make sure they sign him. And then if you get a guy in a draft to compete with Snott and play with Snott and maybe develop under Zach Ertz for next year or the year after, I'm all for that. But I don't think you're going to get anybody in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that's better than Zach Ertz.
Where does Ben Sinnott fit for you? Like I thought, given the preseason and the body skill set, how physical he was, I'm going, as the season progresses, we'll see more and more of him, and we just didn't. He caught a fake punt in the playoffs, but that was about it. Where does he fit for you, kind of in your grand tight end plan?
Yeah, he's sight unseen for me, so I don't know. I know he was very productive at K-State, and he looked good in the preseason, and I don't know. I think he might just need some time. Like I said before, this position is a very hard position to play. You got to learn all the run blocking, all the motion, all the routes, and it's you got to be a very smart, intellectual guy and physical, and you got to have the knowledge to know when to sit down in zones and when to run away from man coverage and all that stuff. And Zach, despite his slowing down a little bit knows all that stuff. And so not hopefully he's learning it and can eventually become like Zach Ertz. But they need another one. But I would seriously sign Zach Ertz to make sure they had him in the building before they just gave up on him and said, okay, Ben, it's your team right now. I don't know if he's ready for that yet.
The voice of Jay Gruden with us here on Grant and Danny. Now, you were head coach in the NFL during an era where the importance of running back subsided a little bit, and the value at the position in terms of what those guys made fell off as well. There was a decline. I mean, you were plugging in guys like Rob Kelly, who were undrafted at times to start. We just saw today Saquon Barkley get a 2-year deal for $40+ million, $20 million per year from the Eagles. What do you think of that?
Well, I think guys like that deserve it. There's not many guys that really can do a third, 3-down back type thing and have that much of an impact on an offense. So there's few and far between. There's a lot of guys that can, if you just change uniforms, they'll be productive. I think that's why the running back market was probably not as, you weren't getting as much money because there's so many guys that could do the role. Like you mentioned, Rob Kelly. I mean, he averaged 4.5 yards a carry for us. He did some pretty good things before he got hurt. And a lot of teams have that type of guy on their team. And you look at the draft this year, hell, there's 10 or 12 of them that you feel like you come in and maybe be a change of pace back. I mean, you got this Tootin guy from Virginia Tech. You got Jayden Blue from Texas. You got Henderson from Ohio State. You got Judkins from Ohio State. You got Murray Hampton from North Carolina. You got a lot of guys out there that could come in here and compete for that, change of pace type back or your first and second down back. But not many of them have the explosive and the home run ability as Saquon Barkley. That's why he's getting paid like that.
The Commanders don't have a 4th or 5th round pick right now, and maybe that'd be RB range for some of what you're talking about in terms of these speed backs. But how would you try to address that where it sounds like you're like me, you want a home run hitter in the backfield?
Yeah, they're hard to find, but there are some guys you might be able to get later on that have that ability that can really run and give you something. It just depends on what they're going to do with Austin Eckler. I don't know if he's under contract, I believe, so I think they still have B-Rob and Austin Eckler. At least they have a starting point right now. I don't think McNichols will re-sign. So they get another young guy that can come in and compete, whether it's a 6th or 7th round or 3rd round, whatever it might be. I think they'll find a guy that can do that. I just don't think they're going to find a guy of that's going to be Saquon Barkley status. But they're still going to be good enough guys that can be productive in this offense. And B-Rob, he did some good things early in here. He kind of fell off at the end. And Austin was doing really good until he got hurt. So those two guys together is 1-2 is not a bad combo to have starting off, and then you add another one in the draft.
Jay, I thought the offensive line was fine for the most part this past year. You mentioned B-Rob kind of falling off. I think part of that was run blocking maybe wasn't as good second half of the year for whatever reason. I want to do better than fine, though. Kind of give me your assessment and who might be due for an upgrade.
Yeah, that's a tough call because you're right. Early in the season, I thought they played extremely well. I thought they played better than they were on paper. On paper, they're a pretty average line, especially when you throw in a rookie left tackle, so I don't know. But Cosby's injury concerns me a little bit. I think they're going to have to upgrade there. And then they got to decide if Brandon Coleman a long-term option for him at left tackle. So they're going to go out and get one in free agency. They're going to try out spend and get Ronnie Stanley or somebody like that at left tackle and then move him to guard. And then what are you going to do without Grady? So they got some issues they got to figure out. I think they have a very good line coach and run game coordinators and all that stuff. And Dan Quinn has a pretty good pulse on him. But I think from a starting core principle, those guys really played well together at times last year. So it's not the end of the world if they don't get a free agent, but they need to upgrade a draft, maybe 1st or 2nd round, try to get a guy to come in here and play. Did
you see enough from Coleman to think he could be a left tackle?
Yeah, I think he played pretty well. Really, you just got to figure, are these the guys that can compete and eventually overtake Philadelphia, their defensive line? You know what I mean? Those are the guys you got to really block. Are they good enough to play against Micah Parsons and the rest of these guys for the Giants, Dexter Lawrence? And you just got to make sure how they competed against those guys. Watch the tape and did they hold up against the best players in the National Football League? And if not, if you had to give them help all the time, then you got to look to upgrade. But yeah, I haven't really dove that deep into it, but I was impressed with the way they played throughout the season. They did get the NFC Championship game because they played pretty damn good.
Jay, quarterback news today. The Vikings are not going to be tagging Sam Darnold, which makes it sound like he's just going to walk into free agency. I have a hard time not viewing this as hitting the lottery and then not cashing the ticket. I mean, I know that he collapsed down the stretch, but the guy just threw 35 tutties and 12 picks and went for 4,300 yards. I don't know, man. I think I got to tag him and try to trade him or do something other than just say, hey, good season. We'll see you next time. They're losing him for nothing. And I'm talking to a guy who saw the Cousins thing play out here. But
the same thing. Same thing with Cousins, right? Same exact thing. And Kirk had a great year. We went to the playoffs and lost to the Packers in 1 year. And then next year, I think we're a game away. We lost to the Giants or whatever. And then next thing you know, he's gone. And we're scratching our ass. So, I think that they have somebody in the building, though, that they feel really good about, J.J. McCarthy. We did not have that at the time. So there was a big difference there. And ended up training for Alex Smith, which, he was pretty good until he broke his leg in half. But, I don't know. I'm not there. I think Sam had a really good year, but I think they must really feel good about J.J. McCarthy, despite him missing the entire season and not practicing at all. He must have really done a hell of a job in training camp and in the preseason for them to make this move.
Is there a fit for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Giants would be a great fit for him because Dayball's got to win right now. They got Malik Neighbors. They got a pretty good running game. They get another receiver in the draft. Maybe, upgrade their offensive line a little bit. And that way they can take their high draft pick and pick somebody like Travis Hunter, somebody really, really good that can really help them. So I think they're still a team out there for him. Maybe it's the Raiders. Because I'm not convinced of the quarterbacks in this draft personally. I think Cam Ward's pretty good. I'm not convinced Shedeur Sanders is going to come in and light it up on Sundays. I'm really not. And Jackson Dart, him either. So I think a veteran guy like Sam or Aaron Rodgers would really help somebody out.
So Ward's definitely your number one in this class. What worries you about Sanders? Is it just him holding the ball, or what don't you like?
Yeah, I think he's an accurate guy. I just think it's down the field. His arm strength concerns me a little bit. He holds the ball a little bit too much, and I don't know, prima donna type guy. I don't know, just something's just not right there for me. Something's not right. Something's not right, Danny. I can't put my hand on it, Grant. I just don't know what the hell it is. But I just don't think he's ready year one.
That's been the sentiment all of a sudden, right? It's turned into that. I don't know when the worm turned. Maybe it was the combine. Who knows if it's disinformation in this line season?
Watch the BYU game at the end of the year. I mean, when he's supposed to be playing at his best, he's horrible. He wasn't very good, and he had some pressure. He didn't know the pressure was coming. I like to watch guys as the season goes on. I like to think they get better and have a mastery of the offense. They were atrocious. So I don't know. Maybe it's the offensive coordinator. Maybe it's the offensive line. Can't put it all on the quarterback. I know that, but I was just disappointed in the way he played late in the season when chips were on the line.
Jay, we appreciate you. Thanks so much for a few minutes, man. Enjoy what's left of the day.
You got it. It's my birthday, by the way, man. You guys need to wish me happy birthday.
Oh, is it your birthday, Jay?
Yeah, 58 years old, man. I ended up taking a nap today for the first time.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. Time. 58.
That's
Jay.
Awesome.
So what are you anticipating in the year 58, like changing, other than more pain in the morning when you wake up?
Death, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's try to avoid that.
That's this year, buddy. Hope not.
Let's stave it off for another year or two. What do you say?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
See you,
Jay.
bro. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
Let's go.
That is
Jay
cool.
Gruden's birthday.
How about that? Jay Gruden's birthday.
What do you get Jay for a birthday present?
Something golf related. A new head cover, a new towel, something where you could play golf easier.
New golf bag.
Yeah, something like that.